So, folks, we got to talk about the fact that Donald Trump and the Republicans and complicit Democrats have effectively lit the world on fire in a way that is going to be and currently is deeply, deeply destructive. And I wanted to record this tonight. This is actually why I'm live at 2 o'clock in the morning as I record this, to talk about the fact that when we wake up tomorrow, or later today rather, you're gonna start seeing some wild economic shit going down. And I want to dig into the reasons why that's happening. And a large part of it is Iran. Okay. There's a little bit of a section towards the end where it's a little bit of something else, but it is also related to Iran. So just kind of give you an idea of where we're headed here. So, right off the bat, Iran has picked its next supreme leader, which is the previous supreme leader's son. So the new supreme leader of Iran is Mojtaba Khamenei, and he is replacing his father as the supreme leader. And he's been picked by the top clerics of the country. Iran has new leadership. Now, this is not going to change much of the internal structure of Iran at this moment because, again, all U.S. intelligence, all the intelligence we have available to us that is public facing, indicate that this guy is more of a hardliner than his dad, and also his dad and mom were just killed by the United States government. So my guess is probably not super willing to come to the table and talk yet. Because one thing that, as I've been reading about this conflict, there's been a quote that's been referenced multiple times, which is, I think, attributed to former top general James Mattis, which is, in war, your enemy has a vote. Your enemy gets to vote on whether or not hostilities continue. And so even if Donald Trump were to pull everyone out now, Iran still has a vote in whether or not this conflict continues. It is not as simple or straightforward as, oh, we got all the bad guys out at the top. Now everything's fine. It's going to get a lot worse. And to that end, I wanted to share footage that is from about 2 hours ago, shared on Al Jazeera. It's about the health crisis in Tehran because the United States and Israel have switched over to bombing different civilian and military infrastructure across Iran, which includes Iran's oil infrastructure. And that has led to, well, this is one of the less extreme examples of some of the damage that's being done. But basically, the runoff from a lot of the damage that is being done by these explosions is also capable of igniting.
Iran deserves this to some degree for religious reasons, for freedom of the people living there. What's your message to them?
I mean, my message is this is not going to free the people of Iran from any of the hardline beliefs that their leadership currently espouses. Iran was on a path already to becoming more free and more tolerant, and any hope of that future has just been killed by these bombing campaigns. Like, do you think that the forces of freedom and democracy gain power when the United States, which has been portrayed by every hardliner in Iran as the great Satan for the entirety of like a new generation's lives, suddenly the United States shows up And that entire younger generation is kind of like, well, maybe the United States isn't that bad. Maybe they're just bombing nuclear infrastructure. And then suddenly the United States bombs a school and kills over 150 children. Like, no, you aren't de-radicalized towards democracy. You aren't, like, made more amenable to peace if an entire elementary school of children gets obliterated. That doesn't de-radicalize anyone. If anything, it radicalizes people farther to the hard right nationalistic side of being in favor of the theocracy. You know, this would be like a foreign nation just using an ungodly amount of ammunition to pulverize parts of New York City. And I want to remind you all that when a group of guys hopped onto airplanes and blew up just 2 buildings in New York City, it created like 25 years of holy war against the Middle East by America. Like, if you think it de-radicalizes people, then I would encourage you to look at the history of what happens in America when a building gets destroyed. And we're looking at thousands of buildings being destroyed in Iran. We're looking at significant civilian losses across Iran. And like, this is not going to radicalize anyone towards democracy and freedom. Instead, they are going to choose the evil they know over the evil that is distant and is raining death and destruction on them. Okay? It's that simple. If your goal is like, oh, things are going to get better for the Iranian people, they have literally no reason to trust anything the United States or Israel are doing right now. And, you know, I just point out again, like, would you trust a country where you hear a colossally loud explosion in the night and you wake up and look out your bedroom window and you see this? Oh, yeah.
نابود کرد.
This is from an attack on oil infrastructure around Tehran. And again, like, people are still having to like figure out how to make a living, how to go to work. And like, if you were wondering, hey, that first video, what was that? Well, this is actually runoff from those destroyed oil plants, which then flooded the streets of Tehran and is on fire. Like, you think that like people are going to like rise up for democracy when literal burning oil is pouring through their streets? This is what the daytime looked like in Tehran today. Tehran has been bombed so much that the dust and the smoke are literally blocking out the sun. People are reporting chemical burns from like going outside. Any of the rain that has been falling is acid. It's acidic. It's causing damage to any kind of vehicle or building that is exposed to it. Yeah, it's literally raining oil in some of these cases. I have a clip here from a reporter. Let me pull it up.
This is what Tehran is waking up to this morning. The sky above the city is covered in very thick black clouds. You can see that everywhere. That's the west of the city over there. and this is the north of the city. Normally, if you look to that direction, you could actually see the Alborz Mountains, but now all of that is also covered in clouds. That comes after major airstrikes in the south and the west of the city happened last night, where oil installations were hit, oil storage facilities. Apparently also a refinery might have been hit as well. And now you can see this morning that the sky is still very dark. We saw thick black plumes of smoke in the sky yesterday. There were massive fires in the south of the city. But I want to show you something else, because it's also raining. But you can see that the rain water is actually black, also saturated, it appears, with oil. And then if we look over there, you can see that the water that's running down here also is black. So that's what's coming down this morning, this sort of oil-filled rain that we have right now on the Iranian capital after those strikes took place.
Now, I also want to point out a couple of things, which is, one, Tehran has been struggling with keeping clean and safe drinking water available. In fact, several months ago, there was a crisis with water management that had folks in the Iranian government talking about moving Tehran to a different part of Iran's country, effectively moving the city of millions and millions and millions of people because they lack the water resources. I want to point out that if it is, in fact, raining oil and that oil has saturated the skies, like, this is going to accelerate the destruction of any kind of, like, salvageable drinking water underground or any usable soil. It's going to leach heavy metals into the environment. Like, we're talking, like, this is going to have lasting effects on the ability for human life to continue in this area. It is going to get worse as we go forward. And I wanted to share just the opening of this piece that caught my eye by David Rothkopf, titled "Living in a Time of Lunatics and Monsters," which I think opens with a good paragraph here. "Not since Adolf Hitler blew his brains out in a bunker beneath the garden of the German Reich Chancellery on April 30th, 1945, have the lives of so many people around the world been so buffeted by the psychosis of a single man. It's not that there haven't been madmen in power since. There have even been very powerful ones, but at this moment in history, the fate of virtually everyone on the planet is being impacted by the toxic cocktail of character flaws, insecurities, and pathologies that are shaping the actions of the President of the United States." And I think that this is a very accurate take. This is effectively what's going on here, because we don't even know why we are bombing Iran right now. Like, if you're in the United States and you've been watching the news, religiously even, there is no clear explanation for why we're doing this. Any given moment of any given day, the answer changes. Sometimes it's, well, nuclear weapons. Sometimes it's, the ballistic missile creation rate. Sometimes it's just Israel felt like it. Sometimes it's, well, we had the location of the Ayatollah and, that was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Sometimes it's like, just like a whoopsie doodle. It's absolutely, there's no coherent reason. And what is deeply frustrating is that while there is no coherent reason for us to do this, there are very powerful and very influential members of our government who are pushing us to do this at all cost. Okay? One of those people is Lindsey Graham. And I wanted to talk about this because it's genuinely insane. This excerpt is from a Wall Street Journal report, and it reads, "To help make the case on Iran, Graham traveled several times to Israel in recent weeks, meeting with members of the country's intelligence agency. Quote, they'll tell me things our own government won't tell me, unquote, he said. He spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, coaching him on how to lobby the president for action. Netanyahu showed the president intelligence that persuaded Trump to go ahead, Graham said. Again, just to summarize what that says. Lindsey Graham is having private meetings with the intelligence apparatus of a foreign nation in order to draw the United States into a war. And now we are in that war, and Lindsey Graham just could not be happier. And I gotta be honest with you, everything about this, like, indicates to me that effectively Lindsey Graham is an asset of the Israeli government. Like, that's what's happening here. He met with his, intelligence handlers, and then he met with the Prime Minister of Israel in order to give him information on how to sweet talk Donald Trump. That's what happened here. And he's even saying, oh, their agency is better than ours because they give me more privileges than even our own government intelligence apparatus will give me as sitting senator. And I gotta be honest, to me, this is chalk another one up for any kind of, truth and reconciliation tribunal that happens, okay? Because this, to me, sounds an awful lot like a fucking act of treason that has killed hundreds of people now. Hundreds of people. 175 children who would have been alive are now dead because Lindsey Graham drew the United States into a war that none of us understand why we're there. Not a single one of us. There is no good reason for us to be attacking Iran. We are the aggressors here. But also, again, he's happy as a clam. Look at him. Look at him talking on Fox News. It's genuinely disgusting. It's like an orgiastic response to the violence. Anyone who responds like this to war needs to be out of any kind of power. You cannot have an enthusiastic love and lust for war if you are going to be a leader.
And we're going to win. Israel and the United States, you just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks meaning what?
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death row now. It is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time. We're going to have prosperity unlike anyone could ever imagine. Peace brings prosperity. You can't do it by talking. The Democrats criticize this operation. They didn't do a damn thing. These men and women in the military should make us all proud.
His argument is literally just, well, if we kill enough of them, then the regime will collapse, and clearly a power vacuum will save us. Nothing bad has ever happened from a powerful military collapsing in on itself. Historically, nope. Historically, when you look at those situations, peace and wealth rain down after the collapse of a highly militarized government. Oh boy. I don't like this is delusion. This is the delusion born out of being essentially lucking into life at the heart of empire. That's what is on display here. He has an insane belief that America's empire will just enrich and bring us all to greater prosperity if we just kill enough of the bad guys. And that's not how this works at all. At all. It's so fucking frustrating. That guy was Lindsey Graham? Yeah, that's Lindsey Graham. Who is a Republican, for the record.
What I'd give for someone to say, you can't even win in bed, Lindsey. Let me know when you've been a switch for one night.
God. Yeah, look, Lindsey Graham needs to work for something in his life.
I don't normally vibe with Vashas. They're demons who crave death. But it's pretty hard to refute in this case.
Well, I'm not super familiar with that take, but like, when we're talking about fascists, fascism is the ideology of a death cult, right? Like, when we talk about fascism being a death cult, this is what we mean. They live for the death of others to fuel their settler colonial ass takes. You know, the Nazis had their settler colonial ideas. You know, Italy had theirs. Like, America has ours. And like, the American brand of fascism that has risen up under Donald Trump, like, this is dedicated to killing Iranians and Americans in order to further state power. That's what's happening here, and it's happening on a global scale because America is a global empire. This is genuinely my worst nightmare. Like, from the beginning of me doing politics content online, I was worried about this exact eventuality of fascism fully co-opting the American state and integrating it like we are seeing right now. And I am deeply, deeply worried about where this goes next. And if you are wondering, well, Jack, where do you think this goes next? Why are you so worried? Like, hey, you know what? What if we just listen to Lindsey Graham talk for, I don't know, less than 1 more minute?
I'm not looking for a fair fight. If we get in a fight, I want to win it. I want to win it quick. I'm in Miami. You see this hat? Free Cuba. Stay tuned. Yep. The liberation of Cuba is upon us. It's just a matter of time now. You see this hat? Make Iran great. President Trump said the only way to make Iran great is for the people to take over. We're marching through the world. We're cleaning out the bad guys. We're going to have relationships with new people that will make us prosperous and safe. I've never seen anybody like it. This is Ronald Reagan plus. Donald Trump is resetting the world in a way nobody could have dreamed of a year ago. He is the greatest commander-in-chief of all time. Our military is the best of all time. Iran is going down, and Cuba is next.
All right. Well,
I mean, you can see it, right? When we talk about this being a death cult, he's effectively orgasming in his pants on live television over the idea of an American crusade against our nebulously defined enemies around the world. You know, like, that's his position. And I would argue it is not that far removed from whatever the position is of the White House. You know, effectively, Lindsey Graham is out here talking about how, you know, we need to just seize a little bit more land from Poland and we'll be fine. You know? Like, that's where we are right now. It is deeply, deeply disturbing. And the fact that, like, Democrats haven't stepped in to stop this from happening is an indictment against the entire party. I mean, like, guys, this is what's happening. When Lindsey Graham is, like, just, like, salivating over the death and destruction, this is what's happening in Iran. Like, we need to organize in order to stop this, guys. We need to organize with any fucking like-minded people in order to stop fascism. That is the name of the game. It is a duel to the death between
Graham's last partner being a half Iranian, half Cuban man.
I don't want to take those bets. Take it to Kalshi. But this is like, we are watching, like, the fusion of, like, holy crusader talk with fascist fusion between capital and the state. You notice, like, in that speech in support of what the United States is doing, Lindsey Graham isn't making any kind of, like, moral argument. He's not making any kind of claims, really, outside of, if we kill enough bad people, we'll have peace and prosperity. But, like,
there is no
we're the aggressor.
We've already established he can't switch.
True, Pluvius. True. It's really bad. And part of what makes it really bad here is, again, the fact that the administration still has to continue to lie. Like, because, again, our Constitution is pretty clear. The president cannot unilaterally declare war. But they have a bit of a problem, which is the fact that all of these infantile, stupid yes men that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with can't keep their story straight.
Does this put U.S. personnel in any more danger than they otherwise would be?
Well,
the Russian involvement.
No one's putting us in danger. We're putting the other guys in danger. That's our job. So we're not concerned about that. We mitigate it as we need to. Our commanders factor all of this. But the only ones that need to be worried right now are Iranians that think they're going to live.
Does this...
Again, it's a fucking death cult. That's the one message that they've got. The one message that they have right now is, we're just going to slaughter them all. That's it. It's the language of genocide. It's the language of war crimes. And I do want to also point out here, like, here's Speaker of the House Mike Johnson.
Well, we just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department...
Oh, okay. We're not at war. We have no intention of being at war. Okay. All right. What does Pete Hegseth have to say about that?
This is war. This is conflict. This is bringing your enemy to their knees. Now, whether they will have a ceremony in Tehran Square and surrender, that's up to them. This is war.
Oh, okay. So it is war, but it's also not war. Again, highlighting a very key component of fascism, which is a rejection of empirical thought, idea, etc. A rejection of empiricism. Part of what the frustration here is a part of fascism, which is the fact that none of these guys believe in anything. They, like Mike Johnson is at this point out of habit going out there every day in front of cameras and lying deliberately about like process, about literally any part of his job that may be inconvenient to Donald Trump's aims, right? And Pete Hegseth, meanwhile, is just out there saying whatever comes to his mind because it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It doesn't matter if it contradicts something that Mike Johnson says. It doesn't matter if it contradicts something Donald Trump says, as long as it doesn't make Donald Trump look too bad, because the aesthetics are the only thing that matter to Nazis, right? So we're just seeing this quasi-reality that, again, fascism thrives in. Fascism thrives in misinformation and unreality. It's why fascism is also just insidiously infesting any kind of like conspiracy community, any kind of like even like if it seemed lighthearted at the beginning, you know, it is ultimately what is residing at the heart of these different conspiracy movements. Why is Zelensky helping Trump all of a sudden after Trump dissing him for a year? Well, my guess would be that Zelensky has probably accurately determined that if he does not offer token support to the United States in Iran, that the United States will cut off aid to Ukraine. So my guess is he's made the calculation that he is going to do whatever he needs to do to maintain, you know, a flow of arms to Ukraine. Like that, full stop. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that one of the only things keeping civilian carnage down in Ukraine is interceptors, which are not produced locally in Ukraine. They are produced primarily by the United States military. So it's a very unenviable position to be in. But again, you remember how we were talking just a couple seconds ago about how Zelensky is sending people to help Trump? Yeah, because, and I'm gonna guess that threats were made to Zelensky. It was made clear to him that if aid was not forthcoming from Ukraine, that there would be consequences. That makes no sense, though. It makes perfect sense because guys, in every interaction Donald Trump has ever had with someone that he wants to establish dominance over, what is the number one thing he does?
Pete Hegseth is out there being the villain from Cobra Kai Dojo, and Mike Johnson doesn't know and no press asks the obvious follow-ups.
Exactly, Sake Tanuki. That literally makes no sense. No, it makes perfect sense, because what Donald Trump desires more than anything else is spectacle and humiliation. He wants to show that he has power over Zelensky. He wants to show that he can dominate this particular relationship because he wants to be the guy in charge. That is it. That is it. It is purely an interpersonal power dynamic that he wants to establish as a matter of like international relation. You know, it's why he fucking loved, you know, Kim Jong-un. And they wrote love letters to each other. It's because he judges these people entirely on their willingness to debase themselves to him. Why are they asking us for weapons all year if they have enough to sell? Okay, well, this section isn't about the Ukraine war, but to answer your question, Ukraine has been at the forefront of like developing anti-drone tech because, again, Russian troops in Ukraine are armed with Iranian drones. So the anti-drone tech that Ukraine has developed over years of warfare with Ukraine is designed specifically to fight Shahed drones, which Iran uses predominantly. And so they're sharing that tech with the United States so that the United States keeps sending like missile interceptors for larger weapons that are striking critical civilian locations within Ukraine. That's why this has to happen. That's the calculation that's happening with Ukraine and all of this. That is what's happening. They're not like the United States is not going to Ukraine being like, hey, those things we just gave you, give them back. Like, that's not what we are interested in getting from them. Keep in mind, Ukraine has been supplied with a level of interceptors, and I talked about this last segment I did on Iran. The number of missile interceptors that the United States and Israel have used in just 3 days of conflict were equal to like 10 times what was given to Ukraine total. So just to give you guys like a point of reference. So we're in like a bad time. But remember how like we were talking about how it's like there's like a death cult thing happening here with American fascism? Just in case you needed a little bit of how the Christian evangelical apocalyptic believers are doing these days, let's take a look at posts on social media.
I am a C. I am a CH. I am a CHRISTIAN. I am a C.
Every day since the latest attacks started, I've been thinking of that Terry Pratchett quote from Monstrous Regiment that ends with, "I wish people would not be so careless about what they believe."
I think a lot about Terry Pratchett quotes. Thank you for the $10 super chat. But like, you've got Christians here in the United States, predominantly evangelical Christians, going around and saying stuff like this. Me chilling, not worried about wars because the Bible already told us what would happen and it means Jesus is arriving soon. And like, I just have to say, like, the privilege of being able to say this in your, what I'm going to say looks like a $500,000 to $1 million house, judging by the brickwork alone. And you're like dancing about like, oh, it's the second coming, he, like how funny and great this is. And meanwhile, let's just take a quick look over here. Oh, another elementary school in Tehran was hit just earlier today. Shows destruction in Shahed Hamedani school in Tehran.
Christian or Islam, it doesn't matter. Extremist religion will always motivate extremism.
This is the 4th school hit in Iran since the war broke out. 4 schools have been hit. And I just have to say, it comes from a very unique one-sided nature of this conflict, that this lady can stand on her front porch and like dance about how cool and great it is to be a Christian while other people's children are being blown up. You know, like, like if the school in your town was blown up, would you have like a dancing like, oh, Jesus is coming soon, my neighbor's kid won't be coming home again, yeah, I'm a Christian, everything's great, we're going to be with Christ, unlike those heathens who went to hell. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? Like, it's all a fucking joke to these people. And they all pretend and have these crocodile tears about like, oh, well, you know, it is really sad that they died, but, you know, maybe they were young enough that like their souls will be saved anyway. Who knows? It could be part of God's ultimate plan. And it's just like, it's an ideology that's so full of shit from these people. It's so empty and hollow. And it's that emptiness and hollowness is what allows it to be co-opted for fascism. It's all fucking surface level performance. Something worth noting that Jesus, as written in the Bible, fucking loathed. But a lot of evangelical Christians idolize the performance of Christianity. It's so frustrating. Especially like to come across these celebratory posts from evangelicals as I again like go through this, and I'm gonna share this video from the New York Times. That is a Tomahawk missile hitting the area near that elementary school in Minab. You can see it's right over there. And worth noting here that the Trump administration has tried repeatedly to say that Iran bombed its own school full of children. But the reason this video was so important is because it shows that they are actively lying. And like, we all know that the administration is lying, but it's nice to have like video evidence that they're lying too. Like, Tomahawk missiles are only used by the United States military. They're not used by Iran. And so what we're looking at here is evidence that the forces doing the bombardment of this area, the forces that double tapped an elementary school and killed over 150 elementary school girls, it was the United States doing that. We are not the good guys in this situation. Now, Europe is now deploying ships to Cyprus, largely in an effort to, you know, deter any expansion of the war zone, and also likely to try and bring some sense of stability to the Suez Canal, because the Suez Canal is actually in the realm of ability for Iran to target, which in effect means that if you want safe and reliable shipping to continue, you have to go around the entirety of the continent of Africa. And that is a huge, huge problem. A lot of shipping has already been diverted away from the Suez Canal. A lot of shipping has also been diverted out of the Strait of Hormuz. But we're going to get to that in a second here. Okay? So here's Donald Trump talking about this just yesterday. Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors. Number one, Iran has not surrendered to anybody. Iran has apologized for hitting civilian infrastructure in its surrounding, in the surrounding countries around it, stating that its intent is to hit only U.S. targets. Again, Donald Trump cannot tell the truth to save his life. And promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless U.S. and Israeli attack. Well, also, Iran wasn't shooting at them prior to the U.S.-Israeli attack. So, that's not worth anything, but okay. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East. It is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, "Thank you, President Trump." I have said, "You're welcome." Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or, more likely, completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard under serious consideration for a complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, for the record, what is the group of people and targets that they would target that they weren't previously allowed to target? Well, that would be civilian infrastructure, which has been getting targeted over the course of the next 24 hours. So that includes water infrastructure, that includes power infrastructure, that includes oil infrastructure. Yeah, he is trying very hard to pretend like, oh, yep, well, we're going to win in just like a couple days. It's going to be done, haha, which is absolutely not the case. Iran is home to almost 100 million people. They are not just going to like suddenly be like, okay, we're all done now after like 3 days of being bombed. Yet none of the forces in Iran have surrendered at all at this point. Okay? And I wanted to point this out here. Yeah, so the Wall Street Journal today posted this piece. The long-feared Persian Gulf oil squeeze is upon us. Traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has ground to a virtual halt, unleashing the most severe energy crisis since the 1970s and threatening the global economy. Now, so what is happening here is that Iran is entering into a new phase of fighting, which is essentially just all they have to do is hunker down and outlast us while sending the cheapest possible drones and the cheapest possible missiles to attack our various positions everywhere. Okay?
And Iran so far away.
God damn it, Sake. All right. You're in that one. So where we're at now is that Iran can manufacture for maybe $10,000 like an effective weapons platform that can deliver a payload to a US ship or US military base, etc., right? And for our part, we have air interceptors that cost millions of dollars to build, tens of millions of dollars to build. And these interceptors, by and large, the ones we rely on the most, we make like a couple, like 600, 650 per year. They can continue to mass manufacture these explosive drones for a very long time. And effectively, what is going to happen here is Iran is going to degrade America's ability to like detect missiles or drones on radar. And then they're going to poke at various different locations and spread out the air defenses as much as humanly possible. And then they're going to start surging different attacks at different locations and overwhelm any kind of interceptor resistance they encounter. Because eventually, the United States is just going to run out of those interceptors. Because we cannot, Donald Trump had a meeting with like arms manufacturers just like yesterday and got them to agree to like quadruple production. But understand, one, that's something that takes time. And two, like, even if you quadruple production, you are not going to outproduce these cheap drones. We're looking at a very bad situation because while they are engaging in this attack on various U.S. installations and U.S. bases and U.S. military assets, what's going to happen here is they are also going to lock down the Strait of Hormuz and potentially also inflict overwhelming damage on civilian infrastructure in other countries if they need to. And the fact that the United States has escalated to attacking civilian infrastructure inside of Iran means that Iran is far more likely to begin to retaliate against civilian infrastructure in the surrounding areas. That is going to be a difficult portion of the reality of the situation for the Trump administration to deal with. Because I want to show you guys what we're talking about in relation to previous crises in oil production on the global scale. Okay? So, in the past, what are the top, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The top 6 events that have limited global oil supply. Well, last on the list, you have the Russia-Ukraine invasion, which lost about 1 to 3 million barrels of oil per year. Then you have the Iran-Iraq war, which lost about 4 million barrels of oil per year. Then you have the Iraq-Kuwait war, which lost 4.3 million barrels per year. And then you have the Yom Kippur War of 1973, which lost 4.4 million. Then you have the number one reason for decline in oil production, which is the Iranian Revolution of 1978, which lowered production by 5.6 million barrels per year. How many millions of barrels of oil do you think global production has dropped as a result of the current conflict with Iran? Barrels per day? Oh my goodness, my bad. Barrels per day. 6.3? That's a good guess. Anyone else want to take a stab? Million barrels per day. 6.9. Nice. 10 million? Also a good guess. I will tell you, it is around 20 million barrels of oil per day. We are talking like a crisis almost 4 times as large as the Iranian Revolution, which was previously at the top of the list. So the oil shocks that are coming are destabilizing on a global scale. One of the stories I was looking at right before I went live was coverage of the Korean stock market. Yes, South Korea's stock market was literally closed as of a few hours ago because their entire market fell by 8%, which is colossal. Yeah, it's really, really bad, guys. Really bad. Also, yes, I am aware that the Iranian Revolution happened predominantly in 1979, but it began in 1978, just as an FYI. Yeah, so this is not great on a global scale. And all Iran really has to do is keep the Strait of Hormuz locked down and threaten to hit any oil fields in the area. But also, they have an additional ability that they have yet to deploy, as far as I'm aware. But the more the US attacks civilian infrastructure in Iran, the more likely they are to use kind of their last resort maneuvers. And when we start looking at that, what that looks like can be found here. And this is from a Financial Times article. But this Financial Times article details where exactly the desalination plants are around the Gulf region. And wouldn't you know it, basically all of Iran's neighbors here have extensive desalination plants all along the Gulf, all over this area. This is actually an incredibly significant vulnerability to the tune of about 100 million people in this part of the world rely on desalination in order to have drinkable water and be able to live in these areas. If Iran were to target some of these larger plants, we're talking like entire countries would be thrown into chaos. We're talking like, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, like, could be overthrown. Okay? Saudi Arabia in particular is very vulnerable to attacks on its water desalination plants. And it's worth noting that under international law, it is a crime to attack desalination plants and water supplies. But given the fact that the United States and Israel are currently targeting said infrastructure in Iran, it does not seem at all clear to me that Iran is going to have restraint when it comes to responding, especially if they get backed into a corner. Yeah.
Doesn't Iran rely on those two? That would be a suicidal strike, right?
Iran relies on desalination plants and like water aquifers beneath its soil, but the United States and Israel are already attacking their water infrastructure, which is my point, right? And the fact that the United States and Israel escalated it to this means that Iran is likely going to, match that energy, match that pace. As far as Iran is concerned, they are going to make this as painful as possible for everyone involved until they get left the fuck alone. I already saw something about both sides have already hit desalination plants. Yeah, I mean, this is probably already outdated, given the fact that, like, even though it's like 3:00 in the morning here, it's daytime over there. In this assessment from, I think this is from a Bloomberg piece. This risk assessment to Saudi Arabia, for example, talks about the Jubail desalination plant. That desalination plant supplies Riyadh with 90% of its drinking water. If Iran successfully knocked out the Jubail desalination plant, the entire city of Riyadh would have to shut down. Like, the entire thing. And this is according to the United States. And a 2008 memo from the US Embassy that was leaked to WikiLeaks states, quote, "The current structure of the Saudi government could not exist without the Jubail desalination plant." So, again, if Iran feels like it is being backed into a corner, this is one of the maneuvers it could take. And my guess is that in its responses to attacks on its own water supply, it is taking that into account. As far as I know, Jubail has not been hit by Iran yet. But there has been... I'm guessing they're leaving themselves some wiggle room in order to try and de-escalate specifically that theater of warfare. Because it would be devastating for basically everyone involved. Yeah, Israel has 80% desalination for its drinking water. True. Now, since 2008, obviously Saudi Arabia has done a lot of work expanding its desalination plants, but it's worth noting that they still remain a colossal vulnerability for basically every single one of these Gulf states. So, with all of that being under threat, with all of that being constantly threatened by Iran, by the United States, etc., well, let's take a look. What were the Sunday evening trades on potential futures for market opening? How are they doing if we look over at how our markets might react in a few hours when they open up? That's bad. Just a straight down chunk of our economy. Cool. Yeah, nope. Awesome. Cool. Nothing to worry about here. Also, and you could not write this better or more apropos. You guys will never fucking believe what organization is ringing open the opening of the markets today. You guys will never guess. It is the private corporation that was created to handle America's 250th anniversary. It's specifically the graft company created to embezzle money from the American taxpayer on behalf of the Trump family. And they are about to open a market that is going to be fucked. It's deeply funny in a dark way, I suppose. But like, damn, you couldn't write this. But again, everything I'm telling you guys about Iran's strategy is coming true. You know, just 2 days ago, radar bases housing key U.S. missile interceptor hit in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, satellite images show. The radar system for an American THAAD battery, missile battery in Jordan was struck and apparently destroyed in the first days of the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. So, like, Iran is taking shots specifically at the ability of the United States to continue intercepting and detecting their airborne assaults. If they can keep the Strait of Hormuz locked down, if they can, erode missile defenses and detection defenses and burn through costly ammunition from the Americans and the Israelis, they're going to be able to start doing actual significant damage to ships and other installations as well. There's really no winner in this situation, which is why even George W. Bush, back when he was president, was like, nah, we don't want to invade Iran. Because even as dumb as George W. Bush was, there was no upside. There's no win in picking a fight with Iran. It's going to be painful for everybody. And there's no upside. And as for, can they keep up the drone warfare? Yeah, they probably can, is the breakdown here. Pentagon officials this past week reportedly conceded in closed-door briefings with lawmakers that waves of Iranian-launched drones are punching through air defenses, leaving American troops and bases in the Persian Gulf region vulnerable to attacks. Yeah, they cost about $20,000 to quickly produce. We're running out of Patriot and THAAD missile interceptors. Even with ramped-up building schedules, such weapons can take up to 2 years to finish, with defense experts warning that Iranian drone attacks could disrupt the Persian Gulf region for weeks to months and drain American munition stockpiles. Tehran is attempting to pursue a strategy of death by 1,000 paper cuts to bleed U.S. and Israeli defenses. Let's see. Brett Velikovich, a former Army intelligence special operations soldier who has worked with Ukraine drone forces in its defense against Russia, said he and other drone experts have been warning the U.S. to prepare for drone warfare for years. And, we have not done that. It hasn't changed fast enough, and we have legacy outdated systems protecting our embassies. Our counter drone systems need work. Yeah, we're shooting down a $50,000 drone with a $2 million missile. I'm interested about their manufacturing capacity. Here we go. The problem with these Shahed drones is that you can much more widely disperse production, so it's much harder to identify even where production might be. You could assemble a Shahed drone in your garage. It means it's going to make it a lot harder to hunt and destroy these. Yeah, so my guess is that they have... open source estimates show Iranians have upwards of 70,000 drones to launch across the Persian Gulf. And they have launched less than 2,000 in the first week of the war. It's conceivable Tehran can keep up drone attacks for months. So they already have a stockpile of tens of thousands of these drones and have the capacity to manufacture far more, far quickly, in a method that is deeply difficult for us to detect. And so, all they have to do is just keep pumping those out and overwhelm our defenses time and time again. That's it. Also, it takes we're burning through Patriot missiles so quickly because we're firing 3 at a time to hit one of these drones. That's like spending $10 million to shoot down a $10,000 drone. That's crazy. That's insane, and it's not sustainable. And every single military commander is aware of this, which is why they told Donald Trump, our munition stockpile is low, do not do this. It's insane. This is Iranian propaganda? No, it's literally from the fucking hill. Unless the Iranians are secretly controlling all the US media. Fuck it. Are you fucking serious? Jesus. Come on. Use your brain for like half a second. Trump needed to be declared senile a long time ago. True. Yeah, I'm sure the folks at the pro-international security
crazy
think
reverberations
tank
of when the U.S. McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II was being shot down by MiG fighters that cost a fraction in Vietnam.
I mean, it's exactly like it was exactly what Vietnam was, except Iran has been preparing for this for like half a century. You know, like there's no way this ends well. And you know that because I haven't even talked about one of the worst parts about all of this, which is that it's going to get worse. Because Donald Trump knows that we cannot simply just bomb Iran into ceasing to exist. That is not an option available to us or our military. Instead, what they are going to do is they are trying to get the Iranian people to rise up, which does not appear to be happening. They are going to try to get the Kurds to invade Iran, which is not going to be sufficient, and certainly is not going to be at all accepted by the Iranian people. And 3, they are left with one last option, which apparently the senile fool in the White House thinks is the best one. Trump has privately shown serious interest in U.S. ground troops in Iran. The president's private comments have not focused on a large-scale ground invasion of Iran, but rather on the idea of a small contingent of U.S. troops that could be used for specific strategic purposes. Which is, again, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Oh yeah, no, we'll just send special forces into Iran. It'll go fine for them. It'll be fine. It'll be okay. They'll be fine. No. We won't send 10 million troops into Iran. We're just gonna send like 5,000 guys. It'll be fine. They got this. It's insane. Insane. Anthony Cook, stop fucking dick riding for an illegal war, you fucking unpatriotic piece of shit. God, you come into this chat advocating for Americans to lay down their lives. For what? Our own president can't even articulate war goals, you stupid piece of shit. It's like the most basic part of even a fucking video game. You need to declare a war goal. And our president can't keep it straight because he's fucking crazy. Stop it. Like, we're literally in the realm of like a child sending us into war. It's fucking stupid. And you look stupid dick riding for it. Stop it. Trump can't give his plans to the media. That's not the same as a war goal. A war goal is, we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. And we had evidence that they had a nuclear weapon. That's a bad war goal, but it's one that would exist. But he doesn't have a coherent war goal. He changes it every fucking time he's asked. You need to watch Asmongold. I want you to understand that the statement you just said to me is, well, look, in order to understand some things, you need to watch the dumbest fucking man on the internet talk about this topic. I've watched Asmongold videos before, my guy, and he's genuinely one of the stupidest people to exist in this online space. Dude, you're taking fucking geopolitical advice from a guy who uses a rotting rat as a clock? Who wipes his fucking blood on the wall? Are you fucking serious? He has a fucking tooth blood wall. This is the epitome of your fucking political analysis? Are you fucking stupid? Like, I'm baffled right now. I genuinely can't with you people. You see someone moldering in fucking filth and you're like, that's my geopolitical expert. Are you kidding me? Like, you deserve to be clowned on for the rest of your life for saying that. It's genuinely embarrassing. Like, like, genuinely, it's crazy to me. Oh yeah, this guy who can't even fucking organize his closet. Yeah, he's got good instincts on how to organize politics. I've watched his takes, I've watched his content. He cannot put coherent thoughts together or make coherent arguments or have coherent positions on any fucking thing because he just doesn't care. He milks you he milks you like a goddamn piece of cattle. Not even like a whole cattle, just a piece of one. Like a fucking organoid from a cow over here. He absolutely does make coherent arguments better than anybody else. You know what, Anthony Cook, tell me the name of a video to look up from Asmongold, and I will personally, as a favor to you, to try and pull you out of the rat clock's nest, okay? Give me the name of a video that Asmongold has done, and I will meticulously go through it and critique it and show you that this guy is full of shit. Because one, I maybe would enjoy that, and everyone else I think would enjoy that too. Anyway, we're gonna finish this segment, but let's see here. Yeah, Donald Trump wants to put boots on the ground, and frankly, I don't think the American public, in the least popular military engagement we have had in recent memory, is going to just be like super on board with sending tens of millions of troops to die in Iran for no reason. Every video, literally. Anthony Cook, you gotta pick one. I know all of his takes are good to you. Just like fucking pick one. Oh God. Even Fuentes is against this war, I think. Well, yeah, because Nick Fuentes wants to do the genocide domestically, not internationally. There it is again, repeating the lie that Donald Trump wants boots on the ground. It's literally reported.
I still can't stop laughing at the fact that the US was bombing painted planes at military bases and putting up on their social media as proof of success.
Yeah. It's really fucking stupid, Sake. Is it really funny that like you like people are dying? That your fellow countrymen are dying? Is that deeply funny to you? Is it deeply funny for you to throw your own child into a wood chipper? Is that a good joke to you? Like maybe we're just fundamentally different, you and I. But, you know, for a death cultist, not unexpected. You know what? Let's listen to Donald Trump in this audio only portion of the press gaggle.
Do you think the map of Iran looks the same after this is all done?
That I can't tell you. Probably not.
Do you think the map...
Oh, that's interesting. You know, historically, have militaries been able to annex portions of countries without troops on the ground? Has that historically been the case? I don't think so. Strange. Trump is dangerously close to sending troops to Iran. Advisors are urging the president to go bigger to end this once and for all. Trump, sources say, has been receptive to these ideas, and he and others around him have been leaning towards sending in the troops. Cool stuff. According to the sources, administration officials and allies have told Trump that attacks from the air are not enough to accomplish Trump's stated ideas of victory, which is true and accurate. You cannot achieve like a ground victory through aerial means alone. In multiple conversations over the past few days, several of these officials and outside of the advisors have told the president that a more limited, smaller deployment of special forces will almost certainly not be enough and that he'd need to send further ground troops to get what he wants. He likes the idea of special forces, a Trump administration official tells Zateo, but they're telling him he has to go bigger to end this once and for all. Super cool. That's where we're at right now. Nope, not once ever has a war been won with air power alone. Yep. And what's his goal? Well, his goal today is apparently unconditional surrender from Iran, which he's not going to get from a nation of 90 million people. So it's like, I want you to lasso the moon and bring it to me so I can eat of its cheese. It's unrealistic as fuck. Yeah, I'm declaring that you surrender. Why would they surrender? They wouldn't, is the thing. That's why his advisors are saying if you want them to surrender, you have to go big or go home. Effectively. Not true. The US defeated Japan with nukes. That's air power. The US didn't defeat Japan with nukes. That's just not how that conflict went. Source. My grandfather was literally a decorated Air Force pilot in World War II that fought in China behind enemy lines. So, source, fucking Air Force veteran who fought in World War II, clearly saying the nukes did not end the war. It was the fucking soldiers on the ground going fucking island by island. That's how it ended, and they surrendered. You are confusing two things, Anthony. You're confusing the timing with the result. Japan was already discussing surrender with the United States prior to the nuclear weapons going off. They were discussing that surrender because of the naval and ground victories experienced by the US forces. Like, I encourage you to literally look up anything about these things that you were citing here. I know they were going to surrender it, but it ended with nukes. That's like saying if the last thing right before signing the surrender document was somebody farted, it's like saying, oh, the war ended because of a fart. You understand that, right? The war did not end because of a fart, and it did not end because of the nuclear weapons. They were already in the process of surrendering prior to the nuclear weapons. You're confusing timing with the result. And the point is, your argument is like saying, the war ended because, Colonel Mitchell farted. That's the equivalent of the argument you're making. If the war was already coming to a close and ending prior to the nukes, then the nukes didn't end the war. It was the land victories. Stop being obtuse. Get your fucking oblong, Hey Arnold ass head out of your ass. It's not how those flanges are supposed to work. Alright, I'm done. God, you are demonstrating why you look up to Asmongold, though. And it's, I'm sorry that the American education system has failed you so profoundly. If they were going to surrender, why did we nuke them? That's an excellent question. And the answer is effectively that we had developed nuclear weapons, and the desire of the American state was essentially to demonstrate that we had nuclear weapons to the world on an acceptable target. Or at least a target that could be spun as acceptable at the time.
Japan. Nuclear weapons create kaiju. America. Nuclear weapons create superheroes. THONKERS.
Yeah, nuclear weapons create horrible monsters that will come for us all. But effectively, we used nuclear weapons to, one, show that we had them, two, demonstrate them in a military context, against a target that would have been deemed acceptable at the time, or at least somewhat acceptable. And three, demonstrate that we had them because folks in the United States prior to the end of World War II were real fucking worried about Russia. Effectively, it was used as a form of deterrence towards Russia, because there was a lot of worries that Russia was going to, continue the conflict and start fighting against the United States and shit after World War II. So there you have it. Thanks for the info. You're very welcome. All right. We have gone far afield, and I want to touch on one last thing about what is happening here, which is, again, Democratic inaction. The leaders of the Democratic Party are absolutely cooked. This is unacceptable. Hakeem Jeffries won't commit to blocking additional Iran war funding. Unacceptable. It's an illegal war. You need to oppose it on every conceivable ground. This is unacceptable. It is spineless. It is cowardice. And I can't help but feel like it's related to a lot of the AIPAC funding that a number of folks in the House and the Senate have received. And, well, folks, last little bit of everything that's happening and why you are going to start seeing the economy absolutely go into a panic, I would wager today and tomorrow. Because number one, we have the war in Iran. That war in Iran is affecting global oil supply. That oil supply is going to affect electricity generation, especially in places that have to supplement their facilities. Right now, there are numerous companies building massive energy-hungry facilities all across the world. And those companies are already in some financial trouble. So here is an article published earlier today, Financial Express. AI layoffs 2026. From Meta, Oracle to Amazon, tech companies cut over 35,000 jobs worldwide amid AI restructuring. Oracle, in particular, has announced a large contingent of layoffs. We don't know exactly how many are going to be laid off as a result of this. Estimates for Oracle alone are up to like 30,000 could potentially be laid off. Meta laid off already 15,000. And, you know, we've got a lot happening right now. And part of that is because these companies invested very, very heavily in building these AI data centers with the idea that they could effectively shell game investor cash around to like pay off their debts and keep going until they started seeing a return on their money. And here we have the press release from Oracle. And Oracle has been essentially renting out AI data centers. And they have just scrapped a bunch of plans for expansions of those AI data centers. Okay. The construction of these data centers is stopping because the funding is drying up. All right. And, well, their earnings results for Oracle are going to be released on, well, Tuesday after markets close. So around 4 p.m. Central Time, there's going to be a meeting with shareholders at Oracle. And I am, I would say that this is one of the places to keep an eye on. So here is some reporting from, a former, this is from Bloomberg here. Oracle and OpenAI end plans to expand flagship data center. So Oracle and OpenAI ended their plans to expand this facility and ended their talks to lease out this expansion. And Meta is now stepping in to maybe partner with the developer of these AI data centers to try and make something happen. But basically, these massive $100 billion plus deals are breaking down. These are plans that have been years in the making at this point. And some of these deals have already been agreed to and come with significant costs. So I would direct folks over to Ed Zitron. Ed Zitron knows what's up. The veered off course part here suggests that even if the data center doesn't get built, Oracle has to pay the $1 billion a year lease to Crusoe. I'm hearing that Abilene isn't done this year, and OpenAI isn't part of buildings 9 and 10. So basically, these are all falling apart in a big way. And the jobs are being cut because these data centers are essentially not materializing, and the profits aren't materializing, and everyone is getting spooked. But additionally, part of the infrastructure for these AI data centers is oil. A lot of them run using oil and oil-based products. And so when you have oil prices from Iran spiking up to the highest we have on record, and you have the global oil supply going into such shock that stock markets around the world are having to shut down because of how steep the decline is, we might get the oil crisis happening as a result of this war in Iran, Trump's war in Iran. We might see this oil crisis be the catalyst for the AI tech bubble popping, which, the sooner that bubble pops, the better. But we might actually get like a collision between two immensely difficult economic events, and that could really be devastating. I'm worried, to say the least. 2 weeks and it's over. It might be that the global economy is only able to stand 2 weeks of this, but we'll have to see. Recession coming soon. We've been in a recession up till now. Like, we're currently in a recession. What might be the most likely outcome here is a full-on depression. And who knows how long that could be. When I said at the beginning of today's show and said in the title of today's stream, buckle up, I do mean buckle up. This is all going to get really, really awful, and I would assume in relatively short order. My major caveat here is I'm not an economist. I'm not an expert on the AI industry by any means, but from some of the indicators I've been paying close attention to, this is not, this is not going to lead us to an era of prosperity like Lindsey Graham was going on and on about. And I think we should all be very cognizant of that fact. So, all that being said, folks, hit the follow button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Comments longer than 8 words really help in the algorithm for whatever reason. And we need to get organized. We need to get organized to stop this insane, stupid war. And we need to get organized so that we can be ready to better respond to the economic damage that all of this is coming to a head with. Like, we are going to have a lot of pieces to pick up, and the more of us are organized together, the easier it will be. Join your local Dems, join your local DSA, make your Democrats more progressive, make your DSA more effective, organize with local labor. We need to do these things, and if enough of us do it, we will be okay. But it relies on those of us out there with ears to hear and eyes to see, to listen, and to witness, and to do something. So, all that being said, folks, let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and switching streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff